The first thing you do is elevate your cue 30 to 45 degrees as seen in these two clips. Now keep in mind, we're not talking about executing a masse shot where the cue is nearly perpendicular to the table. That's more in the area of trick shots. If you want the cue ball to travel to the right or curve to the right, you would use extreme right English. If you want the cue ball to curve toward the left, you would use extreme left English. In this first demonstration, I'm going to use an elevated cue in combination with extreme right English. And my goal in this 8-ball setup is to hit the cue ball in a straight line, and so it clears the obstructing ball, which is a 3 there, and then start curving back towards the right, pocketing the 8-ball and winning the game. In this demonstration, I'm using extreme left English in combination with an elevated cue. I'm going to have nearly the same setup as I had, except this time I'm hitting the cue ball to clear the obstructing ball and using the left English to make the cue ball curve back towards my left from my perspective. When executing a masse shot, there are 3 variables to pay attention to. And in this demonstration, I'm going to use this piece of weather stripping to demonstrate the path or the trajectory of the cue ball. Now, as I've mentioned earlier in the video, the elevation of the cue is going to play a role in how much the cue ball curves. The more elevation you get, the more you're jacked up, the deeper the arc is going to be, like so. Okay, and this is exaggerated a little bit for clarity. But also, the thing that's going to decide how deep the arc is the amount of English. If you use extreme right or extreme left English, that's going to deepen the arc or deepen the trajectory of the cue ball. The speed of the hit is also an important variable in how much the cue ball curves. The speed of the hit also affects when the cue ball curves. In this example, if I hit the cue ball at a very light speed, say 30, 35 degree elevation of the cue and a modest amount of English, the cue ball is going to curve almost immediately at a slower speed. Now, if I use less cue elevation, less English, and I hit the cue ball a lot harder, at the higher speeds, the cue ball is going to travel in a straight line further before the spin takes over and the cue ball starts to curve. Also, at higher speeds, the cue ball is going to curve less. As in any other technique or stroke and pull, when you're hitting a masse shot, it's very important to get a complete smooth follow through. You do not want to jab at the ball. You don't want to cut your stroke off. You want to go straight through the cue ball. Nice, smooth stroke to ensure that there's no miscue. Another consideration that you want to always remember is properly groom your tip. If it's not properly groomed, if it doesn't have roughly the curvature of a nickel, it makes this shot more difficult to execute. And always, always, always have chalk on your tip before you try to execute a masse shot, because using this kind of elevation and using extreme English, if your tip is not properly groomed and chalked, chances are you're going to miscue. I'm including this final demonstration to illustrate the point that masse shots are very low percentage, and it's a better use of your practice time to improve your overall cue ball control and kicking skills to avoid these situations altogether. Because as you can see here in a second, I have the elevation right, but something with my speed or my English is not right, and it bites just a little too much. And in an 8-ball situation like this, that would be almost a guaranteed victory for my opponent.